So today's talk, the power of AI. Well, most of you might know me, but if not, I'm Andre. I'm responsible for Nedap Healthcare and have a keen interest in AI. And before I want to get started, I want to give you a short interpretation of how I see Nedap, because I think it's relevant. If I look at Nedap, I see a lot of people that want to amplify meaningful work with technology. For me, this meaningful work is an important part, and technology is a means to an end. And I see that when I look at each of the key markets that we serve. In Nedap Healthcare, where we serve the care market to create a sustainable care system. In Nedap Security Systems, where we try to create security and allow for meaningful work without creating barriers. Livestock, where we try to feed the world population while trying to keep the climate and animal welfare in a balance. And lastly, in retail, where we try to give people what they want, whether that be food or fashion or whatever, and try to minimize the waste along the chain. I think when I look at people in Nedap, there we go, there's a general sense that people want to be better than the day before. This is true for myself, and I see it many times in teams and in all of you. This drive toward continuous improvement to be better than yesterday. And when I was listening to the talk, I forgot his name actually, Richard, he said also something about change. I think he repeated that word quite a lot. And I think this is an interesting part. Like one of the things I usually tell people during our onboarding, I see some people who had it yesterday, is that when people or customers visit Nedap, that they often, after they visit, they have this impression of like, hey, there's something different here. And I don't know exactly what it is. And we've been thinking about what is that sort of vibe that we left over. But usually, after that, they're more likely to say yes to whatever we're selling or trying to convince them for. And I think this is because they talk to a lot of Nedap people, and they all share the same sort of story in different words. It has a sort of a similar message, but everybody expresses it differently. And it also has this key thing of like, we're a little bit okay with vagueness and with change and flexibility. So I'm not quite sure that his words that people resist change are fully correct for us. I think they're always correct because humans are not great at change, but I think for us, we have something slightly different. So what we're going to talk about today is AI. Now, you've heard about this topic a lot in the morning. He said it also a lot of times. And you've probably also heard it in the world news. It's been, of course, has been a topic for many years, but for the last few years, it's been really going off. And it's really the next wave at the horizon, or tsunami. I think he used similar words also. And I think it's interesting because it both has incredible risks and incredible opportunities. I think there hasn't been a technology before it that had this amount of variety, both on the upside and the downside. And that makes it very interesting to me. It's also more than a product technology. All of the products or the technologies that came before it, we usually took it and injected it into one of our products and made it better or worse. But this is different. It's more than that. It's more technology that also forces us at the way we look at actually building products and at work itself. It really drives us to reimagine the way we look at work. For me, it's more than a product technology. It's more like AI is joining the workforce. It's a new type of employee. And I think that's an interesting way to look at it. So what does it mean? So first of all, if you look at AI right now, there's a few benefits, right? It gives instant high-quality advice. High quality. Because, of course, it isn't always high quality yet, but we're also projecting a little bit forward. And maybe it will never get fully to high quality or super high quality, but I do think it will get quite close. And a lot of companies in the world, that's their main business, high quality advice. So if you, as a company you only deliver this, I would start to get worried. Second up, and that's getting a little bit closer to some of the people, also to me, is that code will become cheap. You already see it. Developer tools are getting more and more popular, and they're getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And that means that generating code instead of typing code is becoming a thing. But hardware is also on the edge. It's maybe a little bit further, but we now see, I think I've given this presentation a few times before, and in those periods, I've had to change this sheet 3 times. because there's a new robot that has replaced this one, and I want the coolest, latest one on the sheet, of course. At this point, I think there's around 30 to 40 humanoid robots in active production around the world. That's insane. Like, these things usually only went in sort of like in sci-fi movies, but we're not really expecting them to see them in factories or even in the house. So that drives us to the question, like, what will be our role here as an individual, as someone working for a company, but also for our company itself? And these are interesting questions to me. Like, what will the value we bring to our customers, what will that be in the future when we don't have the ability to say, okay, only us can create software, only us can create hardware, and only us has the right advice? What if our customers can create the software themselves, or buy one of these robots and put something together? These are interesting questions that have, well, far-reaching effects on all of our markets in the future. We do know that work will shift. There will be changes that are coming. We just don't know exactly what they are yet, which makes it extra tricky. I also think that actually counter to what people might think is that the employee count will actually feel like it rises, because there will be more AIs joining this workforce. So instead of just humans in our organization, there will be multiple AIs that are working alongside you, that you delegate tasks to, that you cooperate with. At Nedap Healthcare, over the last few years, we've grown and grown and grown. And that has given us an interesting perspective of what extra complexity that growth brings with you. New information flows. Because what if for every human, there's now 3 or 4 or 100 AIs all producing information, and we all need to consume that? These are very interesting questions, and we need to find out how to collaborate together, both with each other and with this new technological employee that we're adding, or soon to be adding. Big questions, like, is there enough compute in the world? And you can see all of these big companies, they're super much investing into extra compute resources. At the same time, we're also linking our products more to public clouds. So there's the scarcity issue that might be a problem. I think the climate issue came up in the morning. AI, at the current point, requires tremendous amounts of energy, and that has impacts. And of course, ethics, what do you let AI do? And what do I do with employees? And what if this technology comes so quickly that we cannot change fast enough? Quite intriguing questions. Questions we started answering or asking ourselves, I think, a year ago. The timeline also doesn't make it easier, because if you ask the experts, okay, so when do we get to the point that this sort of AI employee can actually do something that that person, for instance, is doing? Nobody really has the answer. But we do realize that it used to be something like 7 to 10 years. And now it's more likely to be 2 to 5, 2 to 3 years. And 2 years is really close. But it's also not something that is new. This graph is rather interesting. It's like the S&P 500, so the biggest 500 companies in the world that are publicly traded. And you can see the amount of employees they have needed in order to create $1 million in revenue. And it's been steadily going down and down and down and down and down. And of course, this graph will go down until the 0.9 and eventually. But we're actually going the other way. It's like, this is something I think Sam Altman said, the CEO of OpenAI, and that we're more looking at now, okay, which will be the first person that will create a $1 billion company? Because with one person and a lot of AI tooling or counterparts, you can achieve a lot of things. So what's the plan? We're a technological company, and I think this was about a year ago when we started asking these questions, and the first thing is, like, we're Nedap, so we just do it. So we just start. And I think this is an interesting perspective, because most companies are starting from, let's wait and let's see, or let's see how we can sort of restrict this. And I think the first thing we did was give everyone a ChatGPT enterprise account, and that's still going on. I think we have 500 of you that now have an active account. It's very expensive. And I also keep reminding everybody to sort of use it, because it's actually kind of a very cool thing that we give so much of this stuff to every single one of you, and we have very limited sort of restrictions what you can use it for, as long as you start playing with it, because we want everyone to start experiencing what these tools can do. We really wanted to start people first and then technology. And if you look at the impact on our organization, it will mostly be a feeling of personal effectiveness. If AI will be able to take over repetitive tasks, you need to start looking at the things you do and see, hey, how can I see where AI would fit into these things and where I have my main value. There was an interesting quote a while ago. It said, like, now that I have been using AI, I can see that about 80% of my skills are worth nothing, and 20% are worth 10 times or 100 times more. And I think this is the time for us to find out what that 20% is for you as an individual and start moving on that. There was a very famous person who once said, if you're still doing the same thing in 5 years, something needs to change. I don't know if anyone knows this person. Hint, it's Ruben. And when I first heard that, I was thinking, okay, that sounds fair. But now you look at 5 years and you think, that's actually kind of a long time. Because this is what I think was in the morning also very apparent. It's speeding up. It's maybe not 5 years, it's maybe 5 months or weeks. I'm not sure we're at days yet, hopefully not. But it is true that in some of the tooling that I've been trying to promote, like the developer tooling, a couple of weeks makes all of the difference. I was having a conversation before. I said, yeah, I tried it a month ago. It didn't work. Yeah, try it again. Oh, now it works. And this is also like we're not really sort of completely used to this rate of change, but we need to start getting there. And we also want to make sure that everybody has the time to adjust to it, because if you push this too hard, yeah, that's also not good. So we really wanted to take a year of experimentation and letting people try it. And we'll have another year of people, more and more tools, and we also see more and more usage of it. So yeah, it's going the right way. If you look at Nedap, one of the things that I also feel is that if you empower people and give them space, the right space, not too much, not too little, then you see magic happen. And magic, in the context of an organization, is just simply making a wise decision and executing it well. It's a simple loop. And if, as an organization, you can get a gradual improvement on this loop, then you're winning. And it's very interesting to me that if you look at Nedap, and it's like this week, it's its 95th birthday, and only 1 in 10 companies actually sustain growth over 10 years, and we've been doing it for nearly 100. So we must have something that allows us to do this. And this loop, I think, is there. We're constantly looking at how can I be better than yesterday? How can I improve myself? And we're going to have to do it more. Like when I first created this sheet, it had different logos on it because I'm constantly changing it because of the stuff that's happening. And the first thing we rolled out was OpenAI. That's the logo on the left. And the next one that we will be rolling out is Anthropic. It's Claude. It's like a developer, more based large language model, and it will help a lot in development stuff. And we've also been sort of testing new automation tools. At Nedap Healthcare, we introduced this application. It's called N8N, and it allows people who are a little bit more technical, but not developers, to do sort of low-code automation of their own processes. Because in many types, you can have your ChatGPT account, but then you can get assistance when you ask something a question, but you cannot really integrate it into your process. And this, for instance, helps you by saying, hey, I receive an email from this person, I want to create a draft with AI, and I want to push it into my drafts folder so I can later on look at it. And these kinds of toolings allow a broader set of maybe non-developers, but still people who are technically minded, to start using AI in their processes. It looks like this. It's a drag-and-drop interface. So we're trying to experiment with more and more of these tools. But the collaboration aspect is also a big deal, not just amongst people, but again, I really feel like collaboration is the sort of new type of entrepreneurship. How we collaborate is going to be the unlock for the future. I think this is my way of saying the same thing as the ecosystem, what he mentioned in the morning. How can we use the knowledge of each other and of all of these new tools to bring it together? It will change the way also we work, because now there's people who are doing jobs, but eventually almost everyone will have people that they will manage, or synthetic people, AIs. And you really notice this in the development workflow. I've made some videos on using a tool called Cursor. And what you see is, as a developer, instead of typing the code in, you're more instructing someone else to write that code. And you're giving updates and hints and pointers. And then when they do it, you review what they have made. So it's more like a management role. It's more like a leader instead of a producer. It does lead to the conclusion that, yeah, there's going to be so much information to deal with, right? If you're doing it one-on-one with this AI, this is manageable. But if you have 18 AIs who are all doing their own thing, coming in with these processes, then you get information overload. A similar information overload that we're already having with the growth of the amount of people in there and all of the things they're producing, meeting notes, everything. So we need better solutions for this. We really need better tooling to deal with this. And one of the solutions for this is knowledge graphs. One of the things we're now doing mostly is we're pushing knowledge into things like Slide or Confluence or document-based systems or, God forsake, Office. And in these things, there are endpoints. But what we really want is to sort of start gathering knowledge and also tag this knowledge so AI and humans can sort of interact together. This is a meeting. This is an article. This is about this customer. So AI can parse that knowledge and actually use it usefully. We've been testing these things at Nedap Healthcare. So one of the things, we're using Slides, and you can ask questions around your documentation. And I've been a big proponent of something called Tana, which is also a knowledge graph where you can store your information and use these things. You can get more information about these tools later on. I'm just showing you some expressions or some examples. And here's a couple of things that we're actually doing with them. So one of the first things we did is we created a healthcare GPT and connected to every knowledge source that we have at Nedap Healthcare. So you can ask it, for instance, hey, are each of the projects that we're doing, are they on track or off track? And then you get a list, and it reaches out to our product board system, where is all of the status of all of the products. The interesting part is, if you then ask it, like, hey, what is the reason that it's off track? It will ask the knowledge-based system to get the meeting notes of the team, and it will give you a summary of the problems that has arisen, and you can sort of dig into it. Also interesting is, like, if you have like a direct question about something that happened in a last meeting, instead of finding the meeting notes, simply ask the GPT, and it will give an instant answer. And you can also ask it in your own language. And this is also something we've been struggling with, because most of the meeting notes will be in English. Not everyone is great at English, and not everyone has it as their native language. But if you ask the question in Spanish or in Dutch, you still get the same answer, just in a different language. So it also removes language barriers here. There we go, Dutch. Another thing we've been doing, and this is based on N8N, this is one of these automations that I talked about, is that we have a lot of information that slowly becomes stale. We might add a document, or in our case, we have a tracker where all of the decisions of Nedap Healthcare are stored. But often we put a decision there, and then we forget to update it. And as long as it's there and it's not updated, it will become slowly useless. And previously, we've sent notifications like, hey, this thing has been there for 9 months, perhaps it's time to update it. But people don't respond to that. And what we changed is that now the AI is reading these things and saying, hey, in your decision, it said that you would have a meeting next Friday, or last Friday, and it seems that last Friday has passed. Do you have updates on it? And instead of like showing you, hey, just a reminder, you get a sort of more integrated reminder asking you for information, and you can add the information to the system. I think these things, they are working quite well. Here's one more example. At Nedap Healthcare, we write a shit ton of notes, which is great. But I am very curious, and I want to read them all, which is far too much work. So I built something that scans all of these notes and points out the things that I'm interested in, and only the ones that I'm interested in show them in my inbox. And then I will actually read the ones that have a high score. What we've been seeing is that as soon as people start seeing these little things, what is possible, they also realize, oh, this is why I'm documenting. And if I'm documenting, I don't get someone asking me this question in person. Because most people who run meetings or something and someone misses it, they get the same question over and over and over again. The main problem as you grow is that it's very difficult to share all of this context. And by having this loop here, you get more sources, more source data, and it will improve the AI. And then finally, I want to share something on decision making. Decision making, as I said before, it seems so simple, right? Wise decisions, and you have it there. And we've been focusing a lot of that in Nedap Healthcare because we want to make collaborative decisions. And so we introduced something called Shapeshift. Shapeshift is a decision-making framework. It's not so much relevant to explain what it is here, but why it's relevant is that it forces us to put any decision that matters on a tracker. And that's super important because we can learn and improve over time of these decisions, but not just us, also the AI. So the AI can learn, okay, what types of ways are we looking at decision making and what is important in our things? And what we hope is that eventually ChatGPT will have sort of opinions here. Hey, you're going to post this decision, this is what you're, and maybe the AI can help you also represent what the needs are of many people in our organization, instead of having to do this all at once. Ideally, we might combine this, and everybody has their own knowledge-based system, and you can be represented by your own personal AI in these decisions. Now, this is a little bit further away, but in the end, like what I want to end with is that we have a lot of options right now. We have a lot of tooling right now, and I think there's already a lot possible. And I want to really drive you to move and to experience and learn working with these tools while we still have, I would say, plenty of time to get acquainted with them and incorporate them into the way you work. Now, I want to end with the same quote that was also in Richard's presentation. I contemplated removing it, but I still think it matters too much to not to say it. I don't think AI will replace humans, but I do think that humans will be replaced if you don't start experimenting with these things and incorporating them into your workflow. That's it for me.